Goodbye, brother.
In the previous episode, Elijah ignited a gas explosion to take Finn down with him, sacrificing himself to save his niece, Hope. The man had just been blown to pieces by his younger brother, and in the next second, he was resurrected by his sister's witchcraft. Freya unzipped the black bag, revealing Finn's shattered face. With his neck still adorned with her blue necklace, Freya chanted a powerful spell, summoning Finn's soul back and restoring his broken body with her formidable magic. Finn sat up, unscathed, and thanked his sister for always protecting him, just as she had done since they were children. Freya informed him that Aunt Dahlia had already sensed the magic emerging from Hope, and that she was on her way. She would find Klaus and take the child that rightfully belonged to her. But Finn was driven by a desire for revenge. He insisted on going to the cemetery to restore his energy link with their parents. However, Freya expressed that she hadn't seen their father in 1,000 years, and she wanted to have a heartfelt conversation with him first. Unable to refuse his sister, Finn reluctantly agreed. They arrive at the cemetery and Finn carries his mother's body away. Freya sliced her finger with a knife, smearing her blood on their father's lips. Michael's face gradually regained its color, and he suddenly awoke from death. After a millennium apart, Michael did not recognize his beloved eldest daughter. He grabbed Freya by the throat, pinning her against the wall, and demanded to know who she was.
Can you not see the daughter you thought died so long ago?
You lie!
Freya told her father that she hadn't died but had been taken away by Aunt Dahlia. She mentioned the name of Michael's sword, reminding him that she was still asleep when he left for the front lines. Since then, they had not seen each other. Freya knelt before her father, pleading for him to believe her. Michael found it hard to believe his eyes, but soon, he showed the tenderness a father should have, gently caressing Freya's face. Father and daughter embraced tightly. The news of Finn's body disappearing quickly caught Klaus's attention. He hoped Jackson could convince the werewolves to find him, but Jackson had no intention of turning the pack into the Michelson family's lapdogs. Haley pointed out that Finn and Freya's witchcraft was powerful, and only the werewolves could track them down. Taking his wife's advice, Jackson stood up and left, finding Aiden to give him orders. However, Aiden expressed that the werewolf pack had already been complaining that their new strength hadn't garnered enough respect. Jackson insisted that worrying about the pack was the responsibility of a leader. The two parted on bad terms. Klaus seized the opportunity to step in, suggesting that Aiden was more suited to be the leader of the werewolves. He advised Aiden to spread out the forces and conduct some ambushes, warning that if they attacked with sheer numbers as Jackson proposed, it would end in a massacre. Aiden soon encountered the newly resurrected Michael in the witches' cemetery. Michael had already drained one werewolf of his blood and ripped out his heart. Just as Michael was about to attack Aiden, Freya intervened, stating that they had other matters to attend to. Freya clasped her hands together and brought them to her lips. Aiden's head felt like it was about to split open with excruciating pain. By the time he regained his senses, Michael and Freya had vanished. Two warlocks cornered Rebekah in a dead-end alley. She tried to use magic to defend herself, but she couldn't tap into the power within this body. In a moment of crisis, Marcel appeared and swiftly dealt with the two witches. Despite only having caught a fleeting glimpse of her at the wedding, Marcel immediately recognized the unfamiliar witch before him as his beloved. Without hesitation, he scooped Rebekah up and carried her away. They returned to Marcel's place, and Rebekah mentioned that she wanted to find something to boost her magic, as she had promised Cole that she would bring his soul back from the other side. But Marcel warned her that she had intruded on the territory of the Grim Witch. Elijah rushed in, frantic to check on his sister. Rebekah explained that the warlocks recognized the original owner of her body and, for some strange reason, seemed intent on killing her. Marcel suggested they seek out a woman named Josephine, who was the leader of the witches' faction outside of the French Quarter. Elijah turned to leave, but Marcel warned that Josephine was eccentric and didn't like vampires, so Elijah's charm might not be very effective.
My charms are quite adaptable, Marcellus. Let me assure you.
Elijah turned and left. Marcel then asked Rebekah why she hadn't told him that she had returned. Rebekah admitted that she didn't know how long she would remain in this form, and she was afraid that when she wanted to kiss Marcel, she might have to borrow someone else's lips. Marcel sharply caught onto the crucial point.
Want to kiss me?
No.
Are you sure about that?
100%.
Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a man. He was a jack of all trades who offered his services for a fee. Marcel lied, saying that Rebekah had lost all her memories and wanted to find out who she really was. Reuben sets up the tea and invites Marcel and Rebekah to drink. They complied and drank the tea. After observing Rebekah's teacup, Reuben stated that she was a witch named Eva, a demon with a penchant for brutality, who enjoyed killing children and stealing their magic. Rebekah began to feel dizzy, her breathing became rapid, and she struggled to stand. Marcel tried to catch Rebekah, but he quickly realized that he too was becoming dizzy. Reuben had drugged the tea. He advised Marcel to be more careful when choosing friends, then swiftly snapped his neck. Reuben turned to Rebekah, stating that no witch with children would ever spare her, and that he couldn't allow his own son to become her next target. In a narrow alleyway, Josh and Aiden held each other tightly, with Josh apologizing for nearly killing Aiden. Aiden, however, looked troubled and suggested they break up. He explained that his people were about to grow stronger, and he believed that continuing their relationship would put Josh in danger. Josh, on the other hand, thought this was just Aiden's excuse because he had grown tired of their relationship. The two parted on unhappy terms. Cole, cursed by his brother, didn't have much time left, but he still wanted to fulfill Davina's wish, and that is to complete the dagger that will seal Klaus. They placed the dagger over the flames, clasped hands, and began chanting the spell. As the spell took effect, the intense heat began to burn Davina's palm, and she let out a cry. Dropping the dagger, they looked at each other. Davina picked up the dagger from the ground, noticing that its material had transformed into a gleaming silver. They had succeeded. Davina was overjoyed, but Cole, burdened with his own worries, suddenly kissed her. In the midst of this sweet moment, blood suddenly began to trickle from Cole's nose. Concerned, Davina asked about his condition, but Cole casually dismissed it as just a minor side effect of the spell. He then invited Davina to attend the wedding with him. Davina agreed, saying that if there was music at the wedding, Cole would have to dance with her. She turned to put the dagger away. Cole secretly called Rebekah, saying he needed a little help. Haley and Jackson's wedding was finally on the agenda. For safety reasons, the wedding was held at Klaus's estate. Elijah returned to the French Quarter with Hope. The former lovers could only acknowledge each other with a nod. Haley took her daughter from Camille's arms and held her close, then introduced her daughter to her new husband.
Hope, this is Jackson.
In the blissful atmosphere, the Michelson brothers each harbored their own concerns. Elijah was overwhelmed with jealousy. Klaus, too, secretly feared that Jackson would steal his daughter's love. The brothers hid away, drowning their sorrows in alcohol, convincing themselves that everything they did was for the survival of their family. Aiden confided in Jackson about his relationship troubles. Jackson reassured him, saying that if Aiden was certain a person was worth loving, then he should stand firm and fight for that love. His friend's comforting words helped Aiden set aside his burdens. Haley appeared before them, dressed in her wedding gown, and Aiden tactfully made his exit. Jackson was as delighted as a child receiving candy. He pulled out the gift he had prepared for his new bride. It was a necklace made from Haley's mineral totem. Jackson mentioned that they were getting married at Klaus's estate, and Haley was wearing Rebekah's wedding dress, so he wanted her to have something that was truly her own. The wedding proceeded as planned. Davina, dressed elegantly, took a seat beside Josh. Aiden, who had made his decision, approached them and politely asked Davina to switch seats with him. Aiden took a seat next to his lover, and the two of them interlocked their fingers, the previous unpleasantness dissipating. The bride and groom walked hand in hand into the hall. Ascending the long staircase to the second floor, the newlyweds gazed into each other's eyes and, under the gaze of their guests' blessings, reunited in marriage. Klaus and Elijah continued to watch everything unfold with complex expressions. As the ceremony progressed, Jackson finally kissed his bride. Elijah awkwardly turned his face away. Klaus noticed his brother's discomfort. Haley and Jackson's eyes turned golden, and all the werewolves at the wedding shared in this power. A new, powerful pack was born. Marcel and Gia exchanged uneasy glances among the guests, but Klaus couldn't hide the joy on his face. Elijah, ever perceptive, remarked that Klaus always wore that expression whenever one of his schemes succeeded. Klaus no longer hid his intentions, saying that if Jackson were to suddenly drop dead, then this powerful werewolf army would belong solely to Haley, which, by extension, would make it his. Elijah firmly declared that he would not allow Klaus to harm Jackson at Haley's wedding, but Klaus retorted that they were both the same, both wishing for the unfortunate Jackson to die. The wedding procession paraded through the streets. Aiden, now transformed into a super werewolf, was bursting with excitement. Josh couldn't help but share in his joy. However, Davina was slightly annoyed at being stood up by Cole, but her mood quickly lifted when she saw him waiting for her at the corner. Cole's face was now gaunt, with deep-set eyes. He and Rebekah had tried every spell they could think of, but nothing could stop his impending death. He had come to say goodbye to Davina, the lively wedding celebration continued, and Josh, without a dance partner, felt a bit awkward. Aiden walked over and, without a word, gave him a passionate kiss. They exchanged a tender smile, full of love. Elijah continued to watch the newlyweds dance, his face filled with sorrow. At that moment, Rebekah found her brothers and informed them that Cole wouldn't survive the night. The Originals siblings hurriedly left the wedding. Rebekah couldn't help but glance at the dapper Marcel. She hadn't yet revealed her new appearance to him, but Marcel noticed the unfamiliar girl. Under the quiet night sky, Cole and Davina danced in each other's arms. He fulfilled all the promises they had made to each other. Davina's eyes were brimming with tears. Cole, however, remarked that even though they were in a cemetery, the stars in the sky were particularly beautiful. He bid Davina farewell, saying that he needed to face this moment alone. His silhouette as he walked away in sadness was heart-wrenching, but his brothers appeared by his side just in time.
Always and forever is not just something you weasel out of, brother.
Though it was his final moment in this life, Cole finally received the love and attention he had yearned for over the past 1,000 years. He also fulfilled his wish of living in this world as a witch. His brothers held Cole in their arms, with tears in her eyes. Rebekah promised Cole that they would offer his soul as a sacrifice to the witches, allowing him to join the ancestors of the witches in the French Quarter. Because the souls of the witch ancestors could be resurrected, she vowed to preserve his body. Davina clutched Cole's hand, apologizing with guilt that she had tried every spell but couldn't do anything to save him. Cole comforted her, saying that he wasn't afraid at all. He gave one last smile. Finn waved his hand, and fierce flames engulfed his younger brother. As the flames subsided, there was nothing but empty space before him. Klaus had already teleported to a distant spot, taunting Finn for being as slow as an old lady. Finn unleashed another deadly move, using his power to control iron bars and thrust them into Klaus's chest. Klaus accused his brother of killing Cole and now trying to kill his daughter. He struggled to break free from the iron bars, grabbed an iron rod, and hurled it at Finn. The rod pierced Finn's abdomen. Klaus was about to finish him off when Elijah arrived just in time to stop him. Elijah had successfully met with the leader of the witches, Josephine, and struck a deal with her. Although, to achieve this, he had to have Gia dress up and play the violin for Josephine. Charmed by Gia's presence, Josephine agreed that the witches would stop hunting down the body possessed by Rebekah, Eva. But in return, the Originals brothers had to ensure that Vincent, whose body had been possessed by Finn, was returned unharmed. Elijah forbade Klaus from killing their brother. Their eldest sister, Freya, also appeared before the three brothers. She approached Finn, lifted the necklace, and chanted a spell. The necklace emitted a brilliant light, and Finn vanished, with Vincent's soul returning to his body. Freya casually waves her hand and Vincent falls into a deep sleep. She pointed out that Dahlia was already close, and that only by standing together could they protect their family. But Klaus and Elijah were not quick to trust this sister they hadn't seen in 1,000 years. Especially Klaus, who was naturally suspicious and wary. He hadn't yet forgiven their sister for leading Finn to find hope, so he turned away in anger. Elijah, however, said he was willing to give Freya a chance to prove herself. At that moment, Rebekah, who had been drugged by Reuben, struggled to pull herself up by holding onto the shelves, insisting that she was not the demon Eva Sinclair. Moreover, she happened to know how to counteract the poison. She then knocked Reuben out with a swift blow. Marcel, who had been brought back to life after having his neck snapped, awoke slowly, seething with rage and ready to kick Reuben out of sheer anger, but Rebekah stopped him, saying that Reuben was only trying to protect his child. She had been Hope's temporary mother for a few months and deeply understood the warmth of such human emotions. They confided in each other. Marcel was glad that it had been Rebekah who had been protecting Hope all those months. Rebekah, too, was pleased to see that Marcel and Klaus were now getting along. Marcel gave a knowing smile. Night had fallen, and Haley softly tried to soothe her crying daughter, but with little success. Jackson offered to take over, claiming he was good with children. Having just completed their wedding, the two of them still felt a bit awkward around each other. Haley, however, remarked that although their marriage might have been for the benefit of their people, Jackson gave her the sense of security and trust she had always wanted. As Hope gradually fell asleep, Jackson gently laid her down in her crib. Haley and Jackson's hands touched slightly, and after a few moments of looking at each other, they finally become a real family. Elijah had moved into a new place and thanked Gia for her help today. In a good mood, he and Gia have a beer. A subtle sense of attraction quietly grew between them. Gia took it upon herself to stand up and invite Elijah to zipper down her dress for her. On this quiet night, Elijah let go of his unrequited love for Haley, and they both embraced a new chapter in their lives. Meanwhile, Klaus continued to manipulate Aiden, promising to help him seize the position of alpha among the werewolves. Marcel tenderly tucked a sleeping Rebekah in, but suddenly, Eva, who was still trapped inside her body, awoke. Eva approached a young couple.
You kids should know better. It's not safe being out this late. You never know who you'll run into. Ghosts. Goblins.
She cuts the boy's neck without mercy, and then marks the girl's forehead to draw all the magic from her.
I want my mama.
Your mother didn't want you.
She gave you away.
5-year-old Freya is given to her Aunt Dahlia as a bargaining chip by her mother. Dahlia's cooking skills were appalling, and her temperament was equally strange. She spent her days obsessing over how to enhance her magic. She created a chain spell to amplify Freya's power while allowing herself to siphon magic from Freya. To test the spell's potency, Dahlia went so far as to kill an entire village of humans. Freya was the eldest daughter of the Michelson family. As the seasons passed, the growing Freya gradually learned to resist. Dahlia claimed to have discovered a spell for eternal youth, which involved sleeping for 100 years and then awakening for 1 year. Their magic would grow stronger with time. After sleeping for a few hundred years, they would awaken as beautiful and powerful millennia-old witches. Under Dahlia's spell, they fell into a deep sleep. When Freya awoke from one of these long sleeps, she met a human boy and soon became pregnant. Dahlia killed her lover to prevent her unborn son from suffering the same fate as she had. Freya drank poison to end her life. Dahlia hurried to her side, having already considered Freya's unborn child as her own possession, but Freya didn't know that Dahlia had long since taken away her ability to die. However, the spell failed to save her child. Freya awoke from death, heartbroken over the loss of her child. Klaus invited Freya to visit their home. Freya recounted her experiences over the past 1,000 years, stating that their only chance at survival was if they stood together. Rebekah pleaded with Davina to break her curse, but Davina, devastated by the loss of Cole, was in a terrible state. Despite their efforts, they accomplished nothing. Rebekah received a call from her brother and hurried to meet him, but she suddenly felt dizzy and collapsed to the ground. She didn't know how much time had passed before the sound of her phone ringing woke her. Slowly sitting up from the floor, she told Elijah that she had lost track of time, but she was shocked to find herself in an unfamiliar place. The Eva in her head has just taken over control of this body. Marcel decided to start with Vincent, but upon hearing the name Eva Sinclair, Vincent refused to speak further with Marcel. Marcel decided to enlist Camille to work her charm once more. Vincent once again opened up to the beautiful woman. When Vincent learned that Finn had been living in his body for 9 months and had nearly done irreparable harm, he cautiously asked Camille if he had hurt her. Camille reassured him that he couldn't be blamed for Finn's actions. Relieved, the kind-hearted Vincent breathed a sigh of relief. The Originals siblings' dinner ended in discord. Rebekah and Elijah went to Marcel's place. Upon seeing Rebekah for the first time, Vincent was completely stunned, gazing at her with a love-struck expression.
When they put Eva in the falling cottage, I never thought I'd see her again.
Elijah asked Vincent what his relationship with Eva was.
She was my wife.